Hey guys, I'm Cody Markoviak. Before we get started today, I would just like to thank you on behalf of my team and I to come out and let us present our final project to you guys. We're very excited to present it to you guys, so here we go. So the first part of the project that we had to come up with was a good design team challenge to remember what our end goal is and to remember why we're doing what we're doing. The design team challenge that we came up with was to provide a better understanding of the best services Fidelity has to offer. These tools will help them plan a strategy of saving now for their child's education to minimize the long-term cost of financing. The next thing we did was had a scope of the market. We scoped out the market and identified Fidelity's 4 closest competitors that were doing pretty much the same thing or trying to do the same thing that Fidelity was trying to do. With that being said, the direct competitors included Charles Schwab, Scottrade, TD Ameritrade, and Vanguard. We then evaluated each of the 5 companies, including Fidelity, on a number of things. This includes student loan information, college saving plan, social media, customer service, as well as a mobile app. We then graded those on 3 different colors, green being great, yellow being good but could use work, and red being very bad. As you can see, we then evaluated all the companies and graded them on each of the aspects that I just talked about. Fidelity, as you can see, was head and shoulders above their competition. They were green across the board. The only thing that we noticed was their social media presence could use a little work. So our next portion is the research. To get into that a little bit more, I will introduce my colleague, Kyle Jackson.
Alright, so for the research stage, what we were looking for was information on the things people did and the processes they went through when they were trying to prepare themselves for the expenses of college education. And how we did this was through interviews. So for the interviews, we did 6 student interviews and we did 6 parent interviews. And what we were looking for was the ways they went through their college education, how they paid for it, how they financed it. We were looking through if they got advisors or took out savings accounts, when they started preparing. And from all this information, we decided to stick to the parent side of the process, and that's how we did the rest of the project. Okay, so some of the positives we found were that parents had financial advisors and they started preparing early for the college experience. They started preparing way before when their children were very young. They had savings accounts, financial advisors. They tried to figure out what they were going to do, and they did not want to be behind when it comes time for college. Now, some negatives we found: there was no financial advisor. The parents were living paycheck to paycheck. They were not prepared for a huge expense such as college education. It's thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands, 20 thousands. And some people were even getting health issues due to stress from just thinking about the process of covering college expenses. The insights from these interviews led us to create personas, which my colleague Trent Carnacion will now tell you more about. Trent?
Okay, so from the interviews, we gathered some overarching themes. With those themes, we developed 4 personas. Each of those personas personified the one mother and their journey towards sending their child to college and the rigors that go with that. So as you guys can see, our 4 personas were teaching Tracy, responsible Ruth, hardworking Haley, and stressed out Sally. Now, from each persona, we found a few themes and commonalities. So there was a concern that debt hinders a student's ability to succeed post-graduation. Another one that we found was confusion in the process of taking out student loans. And a third one was parents felt a lot of pride in the ability to pay for college out of pocket. From the personas, we narrowed down the one that we felt was most representative of the interview answers, as well as the largest market for us to attack. And that was teaching Tracy. So a quick background about Tracy. She's a new mother that wants her children to be financially successful in the future. To do that, she plans on paying for half of her child's tuition and with their child covering the other half. A few of her core meanings are duty, accomplishment, and security. Her one big concern is her child paying off student loans after college. Now that you guys know a little bit more about Tracy, we're going to talk about her journey. And to do that, I want to introduce my colleague, Kevin McMillan. Kevin.
Thank you. All right. So now on to the journey map. We came up with 5 stages that Tracy would most likely go through. They are the awareness stage, the preparation stage, the research stage, financing stage, and the commitment stage. So let's start off with the awareness stage. The question that she's most likely to have is, where does she look for help? And she is most likely to feel surprised and scared because there's so much information about student loans and how you can go about trying to solve that issue. Now, moving on to the preparation stage, the question that she's most likely to have is, where can she cut expenses? She is really focused on this stage and responsible. She is looking at all of the things that she has, the expenses she has, and trying to cut the ones that can help her save for the future for her child. The next one is research stage. And the question that she's most likely to have is, what is the average cost of tuition? Over the years, college expenses have been on the rise. And it's more expensive for students now than it has ever been. So she is most likely to be worried about her child and if she is going to if she's going to have student debt in the future. The fourth stage is the financing stage. And the question she is most likely to have at this point is how much she wants her child to pay. With her splitting the cost with her child, she doesn't want to pay too much to affect her own personal finances, but she also doesn't want to submerge her child with too much debt either. And she is very overwhelmed at this stage. For the last stage is the commitment stage. And the question that she is most likely to have is, what is the average amount of student loan debt that students often face? And she is, at this point, is a little bit annoyed and worried. There are many students that carry on student debt after college, and she's very worried for her child as it relates to the future on her child being able to pay that off. Now we go on to the buying funnel. The goal for the buying funnel was to come up for goals for both Tracy and Fidelity to use through each of the 5 stages. As a group, we felt that the 3 most important ones were the awareness stage, the research stage, and the commitment stage. The end goal was to get Tracy the best deal as possible, trying to figure out the student loans for her child, and for Fidelity to conclude that she is making the right decision by choosing Fidelity. For the next part of our project, we came up with 3 programs that could help people like Tracy. But just due to time consumption, we wanted to talk about our most important one, which is the digital magazine. The digital magazine is a digital magazine subscription that Fidelity could use to help people like Tracy. Through the form of video, blogs, or other type of material content, it contains financial information that can keep Tracy engaged through a number of years. The value with this program is it saves Tracy time to try to find that information, and it has all that information wrapped up into one to help Tracy. And it basically tells that Fidelity is not only here to help Tracy, but they're there to help Tracy for the long term. The Journey Map helped enable us to develop digital conversations with Tracy. In order to talk about that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Matt Berman.
Thank you. So yes, like Kevin said, through the journey mapping process, we took the next step, which was developing a digital conversation with Tracy throughout this process to position Fidelity to be there for her. So we asked Tracy, what if you didn't have to sacrifice everything to send your children to college? We, Fidelity, are here. We developed an overall storyboard to show the different stages that Tracy will go through and the process that she goes through. Utilizing this storyboard, we decided to record a short clip of the awareness stage to visualize our concept.
Hello?
Hey, sis. Do you have a second?
What's wrong?
I'm completely freaking out right now because I'm going through all this paperwork to send Zach to college. I don't want him to be set up with a bunch of debt, but all this information is completely overwhelming me, and I don't know that I can handle it all.
Okay, it's gonna be okay. Okay, hey, listen, we'll get it figured out, okay? I know. Don't worry about it. We'll get it figured out together. It's gonna be okay. Okay. Why don't I call you tomorrow and we can talk about it, okay? Okay. Okay. I love you. Okay, bye.
So as you saw in that short video, Tracy got a phone call from her sister. Her sister's frantically crying because her child is now graduating from high school and she hasn't thought or prepared for their college education. Tracy, the next day, she wakes up and decides that she has a newborn baby and now is the time for her to start looking into that. So she gets online, starts looking around, and Fidelity steps in and says, hey, you are not alone. Fidelity is here to help. On the second stage is the preparation stage. This is, like Kevin talked about earlier in the journey mapping, this is the stage to where she starts thinking about cutting back money. You know, where can I cut back on my spending to start saving? This is where we've introduced the roundup on all your purchases and Save for College Now program. Give you a little example of that. You go to the store, you spend $4.79. You round it up to $5, that 21 cents goes into a savings account that Fidelity has for you, and a little bit at a time starts saving for the future. It'll help her in the long run and she won't even feel it as she goes along. The third stage is the research stage. This is where the mother, Tracy, starts to begin her journey through uncharted territory. Once again, Fidelity wants to step in and say, hey, this is uncharted territory to you, but we know exactly what you're going to go through, we know what you're going to be looking for, and we know where to find it. You know, the average questions of how much does it cost to go to a state university? How much does it cost to go to some of the Ivy League schools? You know, if I do need to take out a loan, do I take out a federal loan or do I take out a private loan? These are all questions that Fidelity has already done all the work for her and is there when she asks those questions to give her that answer at the right time. So for our next stage, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mr. Alex Cheplowitz.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So the fourth stage of this process is the finding stage. In this stage, Tracy has already answered a lot of her external questions, and now she's looking to answer all of her internal questions, like how much she and her child are willing to pay for college, as well as how much she needs to borrow to cover the cost of college. In this, we frame Fidelity as a company that is arriving to escort Tracy through uncharted territories in order to search for answers. So in this, the fifth and final stage is the commitment stage, and we have Tracy going and meeting with Fidelity advisors in order to get this process started. And in this, we frame Fidelity as a company coming to protect this mother from the unknown hidden expenses so she's not being submerged by debt. Through all of these stages, we were able to show a process of growth and development in Tracy while providing her with the tools she needs to succeed on her quest to finance her child's education without sacrificing everything she has.